Hi, welcome back to English Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain action crime movie called The Great Train Robbery 2013. Watch out and subscribe to this channel for more movies. Our story starts on the 27th of November 1962. A man is sitting at the rear of a vehicle. Perusing a paper, he investigates the main. A plane passes above. Three men in dark suits wearing bowler caps and conveying umbrellas enter the structure. They enter the refined man's latrines where there's two men. As of now, they're wearing a comparable way. They're acting all extremely dubious and checking out when the time's right. Each of the five men leave the latrines together. One of them sees vehicles drawing closer from outside. Prior to joining the others in the lift, they head to the ground floor. The vehicles stop outside the structure, and the man in the vehicle with the paper keeps on watching from outside. In the lift, the five men pull balaclavas over their countenances, while the person in the vehicle outside does likewise, finishing that look by putting his bowler cap back on. The man gets out of the vehicle, likewise conveying an umbrella, while one of the vehicles that pulled up to the structure is being dumped of its products, which is a metal box whereupon is composed the word H spot kitchen. As the man enters the structure conveying that box, the five bowler hats step out and begin attacking that dude and the others nearby using their umbrellas, which are hiding metal rods. The man who stepped out of the car enters calmly, seeing the mayhem. The two silver cars that were there waiting quickly reverse towards the building, and one of them is loaded with the box while the others act as a decoy. The cars make a quick getaway and manage to escape upon opening the box later. Now in a secret location, what we got now, one of the men comments that don't look like 400 grand. They count it and find that it's only 62 grand minus other costs. Each man gets about 4 grand each, so they're complaining about this amount, saying how all the planning has gone to waste. And the guy who's counting the money, the leader Bruce, says that they'll do better next time. One of the men still isn't happy, going on complaining about these expenses, and the two men begin to argue amongst themselves. Later on, the men go out and have a good time posing for a picture before continuing food, drinks and music, and once the song is over, two of the men, Charlie and Bruce, talk. Bruce tells Charlie that he's hungry for the next job, but Charlie says that they gotta lie low for a bit and let things cool off. Bruce goes on by saying they need to make it bigger, eager to pull in more money next time. The next song starts up, and people continue to dance, having a good time. Bruce goes off to the toilet and briefly talks to a man who mentions an airport raid, going on to say that the men responsible barely got away with loose change, referring to the 60 grand stolen. The man says the robbers must have felt sick when they opened that box, which they did. Bruce implies that it wasn't bad for 20 minutes work and walks away. The man follows him. The man goes on to say that we'll be on him like a shadow and introduces himself as Frank, a detective. Stay in your box, he tells Bruce to stay in his container. Prior to leaving, the men are then extended to one more employment opportunity and given subtleties as they stroll through a recreation area. Their objective is a short-term mail train venturing out from Glasgow to London. They're then enlightened more particulars regarding the train and discovered that there might be, however much, 1 million on board, perhaps more. Bruce sees green as he watches the sacks being removed. The train. The men stroll through the train station and discuss the heist. There are no vehicle police or safety officers safeguarding this train. Well, you're simply requesting to be looted. They keep talking and proceed to express that there will be 75 men on board this train, yet just 5 on the high-worth bundle mentor. They intend to take the cash without the men on board. Seeing we ain't got the skill, Bruce is taken with the thought, expressing it's tied in with getting enough life before one of different men affronts potatoes. Hello, you eat potatoes out of this. Later, the 4 men start to make their arrangement. Charlie says that they don't have the mastery. Bruce checks that by saying on the off chance that they can't do something, they need to find someone who can. One of the men specifies a flower vendor in Brighton. Thus they go to visit this fellow and address 2 men, Tommy and Roger. They inquire as to whether he knows how to stop a train on a track. They consent to stop the train as long as they can be essential for the gig and get a decent cut of that reward. Bruce and Charlie discuss it later, with Bruce expressing that there's sufficient cash to go around. Charlie answers that the more individuals in on it, the more opportunity of them getting captured. Bruce contends that they'll require additional hands to get the packs of cash off the train, and without Roger they can't stop that train in any case. So Bruce closes by requesting a boat, and they concur and meet with Tommy and Roger in their home later. Thank you, Charlie. They discuss this arrangement and track down a decent spot to eliminate the packs from the train, a spot that is detached without any houses around. Bruce visits the tracks with Roger and they survey the area, but you have to move it forward to the bridge that night. They're still there looking out for the train and keeping track of exactly when it passes. The train is exactly on time. They talk more about the signals and play around with the lights. Bruce is surprised by how easy it is to change these lights. Now Bruce talks to his buddies, later admitting that he has a problem. The train needs to be stopped at the bridge, but the carriage carrying the bags of money needs to continue on further. Bruce told Roger he could do this, wanting to look like he knew what he was doing. Now he has to work out. How would you mind awfully? We took a look around. They decide to buy a farmhouse located near the tracks where they plan to stop the train, using the location as a base. And by the farmhouse, I mean they'll secure a deposit for the place. And once they have the money, they'll burn that down and escape. Bruce has handed a children's book on how to write a train. A children's book with pictures. No doubt I get it. Prior Roger expressed something about effortlessness. Well, speculation, assuming that it works. The two sneak on the train with the book and show themselves how to drive it. They figured out how to get the train driving and move the carriage. Advances, departing the station. Altogether they figured out how to make that train go, yet can't find the brakes. His companion straight leaps off the train and Bruce calls him a jerk prior to hopping after him, yet they land securely in the snow. Later on they discuss their arrangement in the event that they can't drive the actual train and can't find a superior driver. They'll need to figure out how to convince the train driver to work for him. They start to contend among themselves, and Mick stomps out for a smoke. Bruce gets together with a companion, letting him know that one of his folks who's essential for the train work he's arranging got pulled by the law. His companion lets him know that he needs to help, saying that he can't drive a train himself, yet he knows somebody who can. Thus Alf is acquainted with the arrangement. The men get together and Bruce goes through the new arrangement. They'll mask themselves as armed force troopers. Those cautions go off, yet will not have any firearms. Since they're there just for the cash, they don't anticipate harming anybody, simply need the money, and they'll have 15 minutes to dump that money, and afterward we'll hide out in the farmhouse. Whenever all that's arranged out, Bruce advises them to return home and that they'll meet at the ranch on the concurred date to start stir. On this date they roll up to that farmhouse and start setting up external. They have a lot of room for every one of their vehicles. They get into the house and dress in overalls, professing to be decorators. There's a thump at the entryway. A man presents himself. Who's the proprietor? Then he claims the following ranch over and inquires as to whether he's the new proprietor. Bruce says he's a decorator and that the proprietor will be back in a fortnight. That man gestures and leaves. Stand by. For what reason? Does he have a weapon? Likewise, he just saw Bruce's face. That is not going great. That evening the folks hang out at the farmhouse playing games and keeping themselves occupied. Bruce is pestered about the time, and one of them worries if the man they saw earlier will come back, saying he hates waiting. The guy that appears says it's off for tonight and they'll have to wait tomorrow. Hours are passing and the guys live in uncomfortable proximity to one another. The money is loaded onto the train and back at the farmhouse the guys are told it's on. The heist will happen tonight. Everyone gets ready disguised as soldiers. They drive to meet the train. They park by the bridge and get ready. The train makes a stop at Crew Station, and more money's loaded on. The guys continue to play with the lights, waiting around for the train. It's 2:50 a.m. and Bruce is in position. They wait just a little longer, staring down the tracks in the direction it'll come in. After a tense few moments, they see lights. This is it. The conductor sees the yellow signal and puts the brakes on. The train comes to a stop right by the bridge as the men wait behind a wall. It's 3:03 a.m. One of the men on the train gets out to use the phone by the tracks, though is unable to connect to anyone. That wasn't part of the plan, so the guys now have to improvise. He's jumped and held to the floor, ordered to stay silent. The remaining man is pulled out of the train and the replacement driver gets in. He can't leave immediately, however, as there's no pressure in the train, as they must have lost pressure when they uncoupled it. The guys pressure him, but he can't get it moving. They pull back the original driver in order him to move the train, but he can't for the same reason. There's no pressure. Something about a vacuum. I don't know how trains work. After a tense few moments the train begins to move, leaving the other carriages behind. That train reaches the bridge and is stopped. It's 3:15 a.m. The conductors pull from the train and offered some money for keeping his mouth shut. He refuses no and is dragged away. The men get into the carriage, ordering those inside to get on the ground. The padlock holding the money behind the gate is broken and the money is taken off the train. The bags are passed down the line into waiting vehicles. They don't have time to grab all the bags, so some are left behind. There's only a few left and the men escape. They head back to the farmhouse and Bruce warns them to keep an eye on homing devices, reminding them to keep their gloves on. They hear a report on the radio about him, and they begin laughing and celebrating. The money is emptied into a big pile and counted. Everyone is thrilled. Crew says to wake him up when they finished counting. Another man replies that it's gonna take a while. He answers, the longer the better. Bruce later wakes up and goes downstairs, and he's told the total amount of cash stolen, an amount of over $2.5 million. That's a lot of money. Bruce is told it's all over the radio and that it was reported that only 100,000 was taken. Bruce is worried, however, and says to himself that it's a lot of. Later on, certain men play syndication with genuine cash. They're unwinding, living it up, and the train guide is given 20,000. A portion of the men discuss how they will manage the cash. All have enormous dreams. Bruce advises him to hush up. Hearing something on the radio, it's realized that the looters involved armed force vehicles in the burglary, and that an observer saw the vehicles at around 4 a.m. that morning while at the same time strolling down a dirt road. Goodness, you mean the person who claimed the following ranch over? They understand they can't utilize the vehicles presently, yet go on with their unique intent to remain at the farmhouse for 7 days. Glenn says that the specialists will be kept occupied for some time with genuine military vehicles nearby, that they actually have time. He says they'll park the cash and dispose of any signs that they were ever at the farmhouse by copying it whenever they're done. Bruce heads out, as yet standing by listening to the radio, and see a portion of the folks outside painting the vehicle an alternate tone to make it seem to be a block van. Bruce hears on the radio that the police have asked occupants neighborhood to the region where the train was burglarized to stay careful, as it's accepted that the looters are hanging out inside a 30-mile span of the scaffold. Oh no, and that homesteads in the space are being explored. These young men are getting fretful, and Bruce demands that they stay where they are. He lets them know that it's simply the eye of the tempest and that they need to hold their nerve under tension. Bruce concedes that he didn't expect such a lot of cash and that this shouldn't have been the wrongdoing of the century. Charlie's demanding that they leave tomorrow. Bruce remains quiet. The folks start to clean the place of proof, copying their ensembles or garbs, and Bruce tragically tosses his cap in the fire. Now the following day, not long before they leave, Charlie gives them each of the an advance notice to not streak their money around, and assuming the police come around, to keep their mouths shut. It's a wonderful sight. Everybody gets in their vehicles and makes a quick getaway. Bruce is the last to leave. It's now the 9th of August. At 6:30, and Bruce returns home to a worried wife. She hugs him, asks him what he's done. Having heard the radio, he orders her to escape with her son, and only reluctantly does she agree. The guys begin to worry. The heat still hasn't died down. Everyone is tense, and upon learning that the farmhouse has not been burned down yet, Charlie begins to beat that man up. He's ordered to go before they kill him, and so he does. Bruce asks how thorough the clean was and learns it wasn't thorough enough. They plan to go back to the farmhouse and burn it down themselves, but they're too late. The farmhouse is already being searched. Bruce hears on the radio that the cops are certain arrests will follow soon. He's remembering better times with his wife as his wife watches him through the doorway. Charlie's saying they should continue with their plan to burn that farmhouse, but Bruce says it's no good and that the place will be crawling with cops. What do you suggest? Going on to say that he's out of plans. Bruce checks out the front page of the paper, seeing the first of their men has fallen, now in the hands of authority. Charlie proposes going separate ways, no contact, far apart and far away. Not long after, Bruce sees his face on the front page. Now a wanted man wearing a disguise. He walks away. For a little context, that 2.6 mil they stole is worth around £41 million today, or over $53 million.